Welcome back to Watch Your Assets, where we've got your money on our minds. I'm your host, Stephanie Bracken, and joining me today is a very special guest, the CEO of YTS Wealth Management, Nick Subich. Nick, we've known each other for a very long time,
Yep,
and I'm so happy to have you on today. So thank you for joining me.
of course.
And I wanted to talk about business ownership today for any of our clients out there who are aspiring entrepreneurs or who have their foot in the door with business ownership but want to maybe take their business to the next level. And I figured you're the perfect person to talk about that with the scaling of our business. So,
Yeah.
Nick, if you want to just start out by giving a little bit about your background and what you're excited about for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say, so my background, I met Steph when I had hair down to my shoulders
Yeah.
when I was a teenager. So me and Steph have known each other a very long
Uh-huh.
time. And both ended up in this industry and always kind of like kept tabs on each other in this industry. And then
Mhm.
timing worked out great that, we needed a leader like Steph in the org. Um, to build out our planning division, so it just made sense for Steph to join us, and that was the start of our professional
Mhm.
relationship together. But yeah, so known Steph a long time. Just from the Johnstown area in Pennsylvania, very small town. Never had any desire of being an entrepreneur, and I think that's probably a lot of entrepreneurs is they just at some point see an opportunity. Ended up working out after college for a financial advisor. Again, had it's not like I wanted to go to college to be a financial advisor, and found myself, in a very small town financial advisor office. And I can't remember the day, but I saw an opportunity of what it could be as soon as I knew enough about the business to realize, to put it bluntly, how sort of underserved, our clients at the time were and what was possible to do for the clients. So before I was an entrepreneur, I was an intrapreneur. So all an intrapreneur is just having an idea to make something better wherever you work. It's that simple. You don't own the business, you're working in the business and you could just have an idea to make it better. And in any business I've ever worked in, if you treat it like your own business, that's always going to maximize your scalability in the company. So, you know, I'd say the worst case scenario happened to me. I have all these ideas, go to my boss, hey, let's do this, 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 this. And it's like, won't work, stupid, pointless. So, you'd get deflated. And I'm at the time like 22,
Mhm.
23 years old. You get deflated a little bit. But the other nice part of being an entrepreneur is you can act like, you own the business without owning the business and just build out your plan because someday you will get an opportunity and you'll be able to execute. Whether that's you get a promotion, you get a little bit more responsibility. In my case, got the opportunity to buy the business in 2019. And if you were treating it already like it was your own, you shouldn't like be surprised and you shouldn't ask yourself, what do I do next? You should be ready to go
Mm.
because you already were building out your plan. And so that's what I did. January 1st of 2020, it was like flipping a light switch for me. I didn't wonder what next. I was preparing, for years already of I had what I thought was the vision of what I could do. And I finally had the opportunity to do it. So I'm almost 6 years now into being an entrepreneur. And um, there's been 100 different stages, challenges, hurdles, roadblocks. And I'll say, it's been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but also the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. And the at this point, and I'm sure we'll get into all the different aspects of everything, every incremental deal or whatever doesn't give any fulfillment. At this point, it truly is about the people that we're serving and helping. And then for me, I get the most fulfillment out of the people internally and seeing their growth and seeing them accomplish new things and gain skills and learn things, which is where I get, 90% of my fulfillment, now to continue to push further and further.
Yeah. What do you think for you was one of your standout challenges, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah. So the immediate challenge is you have to maximize the potential of what you have. So that was like, what is the business today? So you got to maximize whatever that opportunity is. So I did that in the first like, year of optimizing the business that we had while I was still working in the business. One of the immediate challenges and why most small businesses stay small, I believe, in America is because it's very difficult for the entrepreneur to transition from working in the business to working on the business.
Mm.
And like taking off the I'm the superhero that has to do everything and touch everything to taking that hat off and trying to build other superheroes, and create the Avengers, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
not be Superman. So that for me though, that wasn't, I would say, the hardest. That was definitely an initial challenge. I had, a lot of experience from the military of, enabling, subordinate leaders and building them up and like using discipline initiative to push decision making and not do everything. So that wasn't the biggest challenge for me. The biggest challenge for me has been sourcing capital, identifying capital, and securing capital to do whatever type of deal you want to do. In the beginning, what did that look like? It looked like, how do I pay for a building?
Mm.
And then it became, how do I pay for a business? And then it became, how do I pay for 5 businesses? And then 10. And that has always been the hardest challenge for me. And something that like you can't stop working on as a business owner. You have to constantly be aware of, what do I look like on paper today? What do I look like on paper yesterday? And what do I want to look like in the future? And you have to be able to communicate that to whoever you're asking for capital to grow. And if you can't, and if it's not correct, you're just not going to get it. So you can't
Mhm.
ever like take your eye off the prize. So I'll say that's the biggest challenge that I face. And it's not a, oh, I got it, like I'm done. It is
Right.
a like, you never stop
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, you keep your vision way out in front of you,
Mhm.
and then it's just like whatever it takes to get there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. And I think that's what I'd say, that's the initial barrier that stops people from even starting to be an entrepreneur is they think that you have to have everything together
Right.
and have
Yeah.
everything figured out. And to give the peek behind the curtain, usually we have about 10% of things figured out, but we start immediately and you figure it out along the way. As long as you know where you're going and you can sort of work backwards of, okay, I know at this point I'm going to need this, at this point I'm going to need this, at this point I'm going to need this, and you can continue to just knock down those targets along the way.
Yeah.
Um, that's the biggest recipe for success, is being able to just start today. You're not going to know everything. You're not going to have everything figured out, and you won't until like
Mm.
close to the very end. We closed on a deal last week. We didn't have it figured out until like the morning of, and it's something we worked on for 6 months. And you have to be very comfortable with that stress of, I don't really know if I'm gonna figure it out today,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna be afraid to try and fail. And if I can't figure it out today, I'm really gonna try tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so like, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because nobody knows everything. If you're an entrepreneur, you honestly probably have the most surface level knowledge of anybody in your company, because you can't like focus on being an expert in one thing. You
Hmm.
have to, hopefully attract experts in every aspect of your business.
Yeah.
So um just being comfortable with being uncomfortable is crucial, because it is a very uncomfortable feeling to not have the answers, but
Yeah.
still like be trying to figure it out and not stop.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the hallmarks of being an entrepreneur is that tenacity to just
Mhm.
whatever it takes, you just keep on going.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, you were talking about leaders
Mhm.
before, and developing leaders and kind of giving up control
Mhm.
almost of not having your hands in every aspect of the business. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you transition from being, if you're a solo entrepreneur right
Yeah.
now and that you're the only person working there, and now you start growing your team, how do you manage that and how do you let go of that control and kind of pass it on to others?
Yeah, this isn't just a struggle solo or, preneurs deal with. It's a struggle that, employees deal with, you know, parents deal with, I'll say, looking at my kids now. But coaches, I'll say like players on a team, like everybody faces this in some aspect of their life, to where, you know, people want to control everything, because most people in their brain, my way is obviously the best way.
Yep.
And I think it's been more so less of a surprise, because again, I think I'm spoiled because I was exposed to a whole lot of leadership concepts at 18
Yeah.
because of the army. So
Right.
like, I had a lot of this prior knowledge before I was in this seat. So the Army does a great job of that, of instilling, how to let go. But in the entrepreneur space, again, I think it's the number one reason people don't grow is because they can't let go. And at the simplest form, I'll give an example from like 2 days ago. Or Friday, either Friday or Monday this week, I was pulling into the office and I was like, there's like fall decor at the
Oh.
building. And I'm like, wonder who made that call. You know what I mean? Like, so at the simplest form, it's like, oh, like that looks nice. Like, I'm
Yeah.
glad somebody like did that.
Yeah.
At the most, complex example, like I'll use just you're sitting here, I'll use you as an example as, the leader of our planning department. I have no idea like what new techniques or strategies that you just used over the last 7 days
Yeah.
with clients that you worked on, and what you're utilizing for them now that you didn't utilize literally a week ago. And that's okay, because I trust you and believe in you and know you're the right person for our clients and the company. So I think it's less about the what and more about the who and the why. And if you have people in your business, on your team, in your household that and it all comes down to, they're positive, they're a good person, they want to help people, and you believe in them and trust in them, and they want to grow with you, or just grow in general. Like if the people check those things, you have to be okay with letting go.
Mm.
And if they don't check those things, you shouldn't let go. Then it's like, okay, then it's like shame on you if they are, running wild. If you're wondering one of those three things about them and they're making decisions that you're not approving, then like, okay, that is like a bad thing. But
Mhm.
if all those three things are in check, then you have to empower people to make decisions every day that you're not making. And where you're going to get max discomfort is when you see somebody make a decision that immediately in your mind you're like, whoa, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
But you got to check yourself again, because really quickly you could like spiral into like, now you're trying to control every aspect of the business, which A, you won't grow, B, your people will be like, this sucks, I'm gone,
Yeah.
and you'll lose all your great talent, because like everybody wants to be able to leave their mark on something.
Absolutely.
So really quickly you got to check yourself. And if you see somebody doing something that you don't agree with, you have to ask yourself, is this immoral, illegal, or unethical? If it's not any of those things, then you've got to let it play out,
Yeah.
because like one of two things are going to happen. A, it's not going to work. Did a law get broken? No. Did somebody get hurt? No. So okay, like did the building burn down? No. Okay, so like it wasn't like a super consequential decision.
Right.
If it didn't work, that person now gets a learning opportunity because they got to fail at something, which gave them immediate feedback of, okay, this didn't work, so I will now either try this, or they already knew they had one other option. So it's like, great, now this is the route to go.
Yeah.
So that person got to learn, and they won't make that mistake again. Generally, most people won't. And B, they felt really good that you believed in them enough to let them make that decision. And then C, when they failed, you weren't like, how could you do this? Like, you're so stupid.
Right.
And then
Right.
you come in and it's like, hey, like, we saw this play out. Why didn't this work out? Okay, great. Like next time, let's do this together. And I really think that'll work. So then they realize that they're in an org that they're allowed to make decisions, make mistakes, and learn, which makes the whole org better. So,
Mhm.
honestly, and then here's the last route, which this is the one that I love the most. They don't fail, and their way is even better than yours.
Yep.
That's actually the best outcome,
Yeah.
because that's what you want in your org. Like I don't want to be right really about that much with like day-to-day ops.
Yeah.
I want everyone here to be able to make decisions that are outside of my knowledge, awareness, experience. Like if someone's here, they should amplify what we do. They shouldn't just be an extension of what I already know or what any entrepreneur already knows. They should be, bringing other things to the table.
Yeah.
And that's how an org, amplifies output.
Yep.
If someone comes in and they only know what I've told them, and then they don't grow, they don't learn, they don't gain more experience, is the org moving forward? No.
Yeah.
So I think, there's no way you're going to lose. As again, always make sure it's legal, moral, and ethical. There's no way you're going to lose if it's one of those things. And if the person fails, great, learning opportunity. If they are right, great. That's why they're here.
Yeah.
Like you should
Yeah.
want them to be right, and you should want to be wrong. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? So there's no bad outcome. So But is it uncomfortable? Yes,
Yeah.
because like it still happens all the time of like, I don't know, like that's really don't think that's going to work, but just you
Yeah.
got to let it play out. And then,
Absolutely.
you're going to get better on the other side of it
Yeah.
if you're the right person though too. Like, there's obviously horrible leaders, I won't call them leaders, bosses, managers out there that go the way, wrong way of that. Of like if someone fails, like, you rub it in their face or like you just don't even let them make a decision.
Yeah.
Um, that's where businesses go wrong and they don't grow.
Absolutely.
And I feel like and it might be something with the older generation too. A lot of people will say like, "Well, I'm not a control freak, I'm a control enthusiast." And they almost like
Oh,
wear micromanaging with a badge of honor. And it's just like, "Hey, like you've lost a business. Like
yeah.
if that's how you're going to go forward, you should just like sell your business."
Yeah. I mean, as an entrepreneur, an employee, nobody wants to be micromanaged. Like
No.
that's the last thing you want. That's how you're right. That's how you lose people. The try, fail, adjust method is much more profitable. I think it lets people, like you said, get that experience now. And then I can then pass my knowledge on to my team
Right.
and then say, hey, that person comes to me with a similar idea to what I had. Hey, I tried this a while ago. It didn't really work. We can try it again, but it might be better if we do it this way. So then I can
Right.
then pass that my knowledge on because of the freedom you've given me as a
Mhm.
leader to then pass that on to my team and then develop leaders of my own.
Right.
So it all passes on, and the ability to have that flexibility, that trust in your CEO, like, is so critical to all of your employees, I think.
Mhm.
So I think you're totally, totally right on that. I think that was awesome. An
Great.
awesome answer.
Thanks.
What are some strategies that you see, and you might have already touched on this, but what are some strategies you see some entrepreneurs implementing that others aren't, that they maybe should be?
Yeah, so M&A, mergers and acquisitions, number one. So it doesn't matter what your business is, whether you pour concrete, whether you do lawns, whether you have a SaaS company, whether you do wealth management,
Mhm.
like we do, roofs, anything, mergers and acquisitions. And why that is let's just use an example in our business. We closed on an acquisition last week. We brought on 100 new families. For us to bring on 100 new families organically as clients, the amount of time, work, cost, effort associated with that, that takes, let's call it a year. You know what I mean? And that's 100 that are closed. To get those 100 might have taken 200. So we're talking like, okay, maybe that's 2 years that it takes to get that 100. Last week, the acquisition that we closed, we got 100, with signatures. And then the whole work on the back end of now we have to introduce them to their team, et cetera. But still, like, I saw very quickly that this is going to be a way faster way to grow and scale than doing it one person at a time or
Mm,
one brick at a time.
yeah.
We're doing it buying in essentially like one house at a time. And then when you bring that you know other smaller business that you buy and absorb into your own, then you can hopefully you have better resources to offer and solutions than the other one did, or most likely they'd be bigger than yours. It's sort of just like that's like the epitome of capitalism.
Mhm.
Generally, you're bigger if you have better resources and solutions and service models.
Yeah.
And then you give those people your service model, your solutions, your resources. And then usually it's like, wow, this is fantastic. And then that grows. And then, it falls in line with your own, higher organic growth. So, like a rising tide lifts all boats. And any business can do this at any scale. If you look at, I always try to convince he's been a guest, Barber Ben, but I try to convince my barber all the time of like, he's young, passionate, does anything for his customers, wants to be the best at everything, wants to offer the best product. And I always tell them, go down the street. There's probably 10, 70-year-old barbers that are just looking for somebody to give them an option to retire, but they care too much about their customers. So they know that, their people are going to let down if they retire. So they're just still
Mm,
working. And anyone I talk to that's in business, I try to just shed some light on how you could do M&A. Now, it's very difficult. It's very costly. If you do it at scale, you're going to be spending tens of millions of dollars. And then that presents, the biggest challenge I explained in the beginning of the interview is, where do you get that money
yeah.
and
Yeah.
how? And then the risk associated with it. Some people just can't stomach the risk as well of like, you know, owing somebody, tens of millions of dollars is obviously like risk. So the risk component's there, but I would say doing M&A in any business is something that a lot of people do not do that they should, or they'll do it like one time and then like they stop for maybe like 10 years or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
To where if you make it a part of your business and you build processes around it and you position yourself to be the best at that in your space, um, your growth is going to come with that. And that's how
Yeah.
we've grown, 20x in 5 years is through that.
Yeah. Now, on that same front, I imagine it takes a lot of resources on the social media advertising front as well, and creating your brand
Hmm.
with being able to have your barber go down the street, and that person, that 70-year-old, knows that if he would hand his clients over to the 30-year-old, that his clients are going to be in good hands because of the brand he has built
Right.
up. So, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. That's the longest term campaign plan I'll say that we have is our brand.
Yeah.
And our brand's morphed. So like in the beginning, as all small businesses do, the name is usually a couple names. It's like, oh, let's be really creative. Let's use our last names. Awesome. Like that's our business
Yeah, that's
name. So in the
revolutionary.
beginning, YTS was Yeckley, Chandler, and Subich. And very quickly, the other two partners retired and it just became me. And I had an inflection point of, knowing how big my vision for our firm was. I'm going to be constantly in front of rooms full of people. And at the core, I have to be able to explain who we are and where are we going and how does who we are help us get there faster than everybody else.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can I go in front of any room, whether it's prospective, clients, partners, employees, anybody, and paint a picture and a story of who we are with just my name.
Yeah.
Obviously, am I the CEO? Yes. I am majority of the company. Yes. You know, but if it's just me, like I've seen what the business looks like with just me. Very small. Can't help that many people.
Yeah.
Like one office. I've seen that. I've seen now what the business can be with, up to at our highest watermark, 45, 50 like-minded people that are all rowing in the same direction, that are all, subscribers to our culture and, wanting to grow and build something big. And that's way bigger than me. And so I realized that for our brand to get to where we really wanted to go, not even today, it needed to be something that embodied what we do differently, who we are, and how that gets us to where we're going. And I'm like, well, I don't want to alienate the clients that we've had and change really a lot about the brand of, for all of our current customers. So I'm like, okay, YTS, what do we do at YTS that I think is different than every other wealth company in our market is we provide all of the resources the client needs for their wealth management picture. And at the core, that is providing them with their total solution to all those needs. I'm like, oh, great, your total solution. And it just happened like that. So
Yeah.
I'm like, that is way better about, I can communicate that and
Yeah.
how that offering is going to get us to where we want to go. I cannot get us to where we want to go alone.
Yeah.
It needs to be us, the culture, the brand, the resources, the service model.
Yeah.
So that became the rebrand of YTS. And it's just like the capital search, the effort and energy that's put into our brand will never stop. And it just has to continue to also grow and get larger. So for us, we've, made it a multifaceted campaign plan as simple as, grassroots community involvement, which I think is important because people don't, know they don't care what you know until they know that you care. So you've got to show them that you're willing to volunteer in the community and give back. So, what did we do there? We allocated resources to bring in somebody that can focus pretty much just on that, which was Marley in our company, who's done a fantastic job of building out relations in the community. We, invested in, print and digital media. So from billboards to newspapers to, articles online, and then investing it into, our podcasts and our social media and our television commercials and radio, to where I think you'd have to cover all your bases. And it's something that you can't really stop. You got to continue. And that's the only way that your brand is going to continue to get out there.
Mm.
And relative in relativity, we are still in obscurity. on the national scale, like no one knows we exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
like we're still very small. So there's, light years ahead of us in that long-term campaign plan. But if you're a entrepreneur that's like, how can I, create some brand awareness, start showing up at all the community events,
Mhm.
again, show people you care, volunteer, you can do your own social media. Before, the team that we've built out, with Jordan and Austin and Lucy, we would just set up, a phone or one camera and just started there.
Yeah.
So like you could start somewhere. And I think that that's the most important thing is create that brand awareness and reputation. And your brand is also going to be directly hit with either the positivity that you spread in your day-to-day functions with your clients or the negativity you spread in the spend in the day-to-day activity with your clients. And that also, that word of mouth is more powerful than all of those efforts I just listed that we do.
Yeah.
And that can spread very fast as well, which it did for us. So, it's a multifaceted campaign plan that will always grow. Um, and no matter what level someone is at or what chapter they're at in business, like if you're not allocating resources, time, and efforts towards that, your business will not grow. I mean, I've seen it, in the business I started in and others. There was no time allocated to that, so the business just stayed the same.
Mm,
So if you don't do anything different, you can't expect different results.
yeah. What keeps you motivated to keep going and going and going? Because we're obviously growing very fast, and I
Mhm,
feel like that can get daunting, or you could easily get burnt out if you're
mhm.
not if you don't maybe have the mental fortitude to do that. So for you, what's your motivation?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it's positive. There's the other negative motivating factors. I think if you look at a lot of entrepreneurs, they had some type of, not to turn this into a therapy session, but they had some type of like trauma in their childhood or their life. Not too much trauma. It's weird. Like, like too much trauma like just messes people up. And
Right,
then
right.
like they're just trying to just like function. But like it's everybody that I subscribe to that is way further than me that I view as a mentor, even though I haven't met them, that I follow, online, that's entrepreneurs that have built massive organizations. In their childhood, they didn't have a great, childhood, and
Yeah.
they had like just enough trauma to where they had like something to prove,
Mm,
somebody to prove wrong, and a chip on their shoulder that like that'll never stop. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And for me, that's a big part of it is like that I would say is like a negative driver. But it's if I'm just being true and honest, it's definitely a huge motivator to me is there's a few people that I'm like always just trying to prove wrong. And
Mm,
there's no level of success that in my mind would like be enough for that core motivating piece. That's like I would say the only like negative.
trying to prove the haters wrong.
Yeah. Um and then the like and these stages of motivation shift too.
Yeah.
When I had kids, which I did early on into being an entrepreneur, it sounds cliche. Everyone says, "Oh, I do it for my family." You know what I mean? But like truly how I try to view things now is, and a lot of the time there is a camera following us around, but I try to act like, you know, I'm the character in my own movie and someday my kids are going to get to watch it. And they're going to evaluate you on like, you know, what did dad do here? What did dad do there? Did he push? Could he have pushed harder there? And like eventually, like they will see how your entire life played out and they'll be able to reflect on like, man, like look at this huge opportunity dad had. And like he stopped here because, he got comfortable and he didn't want to keep going any further.
Mhm.
So I try to every day operate as if, my kids are watching like a live stream into my movie, which is my life. And, I want to try to make, the decisions that they'd be proud of when they're, grown men someday.
Yeah.
So now, do I always make the right one? No, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But generally I try to make decisions like that. And then I'm only 30, but the more mature I've gotten too, I've tried to make decisions based on how will I feel about it in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, not like right now.
Mm,
So this whole 6-year journey, there hasn't been any like reflection moments of like, man, I'm just gonna relax for 6 months on a beach somewhere because while I've like made it, like it has been 6 years of full go, no stops. Like the longest trip I've taken is like, 3 to 5 days in this like 6 year period. And so, I haven't taken a knee for 6 years and would taking a month off, you know, give me some short term positive feelings now, sure. But like in 10 years, will I look back and be like, man, I missed out on like, look at that opportunity I missed out. So I feel that entrepreneurs don't get lucky, but eventually I slightly believe in karma. Eventually, like they're rewarded on if you just compound the days, weeks, and months and years of just not stopping, good things happen. That's been our
Yeah.
story generally. There's been some moments where, I'll say I had gut feelings and then we got lucky because of actions I took, along the funding challenge. But I think it's just you're rewarded for the work that you continue to just do and do and do.
Yeah.
And for me, why the motivation doesn't stop at this point is because what motivates me has changed also, to where in the beginning, sure, it is like chasing like your next dollar motivate you, yes, but at some point most people quote unquote burn out because they don't care about their next dollar because they're comfortable. And I think in our industry, that's where all financial advisors stop,
Yeah.
is because they get some level of financial security that makes them comfortable to where then they completely stop growing. I'm sure if you did some study across 100,000 advisors, whenever they were able to start saving some amount of money and they weren't worried about covering whatever their needs were, I would imagine that's directly correlated on the X and Y axis of when their business flatlined and stopped growing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm not making decisions based on, you know, any type of financial decisions today. And I'm not motivated by that today, to where really quickly I realized that like things don't provide me any happiness at all. They do for like a day and
Right.
then like it's done.
Yeah.
So now where I get really long-term fulfillment is, I'll point to someone in the room here, Austin, he's on our media team. Seeing Austin like grow up in, my hometown and get to see him like grow up in our company and continue to grow. Those types of things are like, I want more of that.
Yeah.
Like that, makes the hair of my arm stand up. Making another, $100,000 doesn't, make the hair of my arm stand
Right.
up. Or open a new location, like doesn't make me feel those like real raw emotions. Seeing our team's lives change, get better, progress, take opportunity, grow, that provides me emotion. And what's cool is how many people on our team now I didn't even know existed 12 months ago. There's going to be people on our team next year that we don't, like you included,
Yeah.
we don't even know they are alive.
Right.
And like they'll be a part of our life in 12 months and then see them grow and hopefully their life get better. That is, gives me a ton of fulfillment and motivation. And the last piece, because I really went out a while talking about this, but I'm a very touchy feely person.
Yeah.
Getting to do more with kids, which our whole company has embodied, of giving back. You took part of it in this summer with the Musa project that we did. That provides me tons of motivation, and the amount that we can help other people as our company as a whole and me personally is directly correlated with how much we grow
Yeah.
and how much money we have available to allocate to those initiatives. So, that's what I want to do when I grow up someday, is like, spend a lot more time on helping kids and, in both, mentorship and, financially and economically. And to do that, I'm going to need, way more money with the scale that, I want to be able to help
Yeah.
in that way. So, that's what motivates me at this point, which is why, we're nowhere near we all can be, or B, I think collectively want to be. So there's no plans of us, slowing down or stopping at
Yeah.
this point. That's for sure. Oh, last point too, I'll add, what motivates me too is seeing other people step into leadership roles and not sacrificing the leader that they deserve. That's another big one. And that could be viewed as both positive or negative, of like people think like, oh, like you can do whatever the hell you want, like you're in charge. It's like that's like not true at all if you want to be a positive leader.
Yeah.
Because like, could I decide that October I don't want to walk it in the doors anymore? sure, but like I guarantee you by the end of October, people are gonna be like,
What's going on?
where the hell's Subich at? Like, has anyone seen him in the last month?
Yeah.
Like, is the company okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so like people think like, oh, you can just do whatever you want, but there's a big difference between being a boss or a manager and being a leader. A boss or a manager is like, hey, like this is my expectation of you. You should be working your ass off. You should be at the office 50 hours a week, blah, 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 blah. And do people have to do it? Yes. But the organization that I want to have forever is I don't want people to be compliant. I want people to be, also motivated and, volunteering and willing to do the hard things
Yeah.
because I'm doing the hard things and setting the example of like, you know, I'm not too good for this. No one is too good for this, because it's meaningful and impactful to all of us and we're all going to, benefit from it. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing that motivates me of like, I know there's a whole lot of eyes on me that I can't just like drop my output and then expect everybody else to be maximizing theirs.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And you were talking about luck. And I think exactly what you were just saying. I think people don't see the hard work that comes behind luck. I think people just assume that you got lucky, but they don't see the countless hours that you have spent. I mean,
Yeah.
think about the nights we've spent together.
Yeah. Steph's first day was until like 1 o'clock in the morning.
My first day here was till 1 o'clock in the morning. We drove to DC that night, and then we spent a lot of time here one other night working on annuity things until like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And
Yeah.
but you've been there, like you've been in the trenches. You don't just work your 20 hours a week, go golfing, and that's it. Like
No.
you're here with us.
Right.
So it is cool to see that as someone who works for you, to see that you're in the trenches with us. So yeah, that's
And
really
as like messed up as it sounds, like I actually like that and
Yeah.
think it's fun. Like, and you probably would look back at that positively now too.
Absolutely.
Like anytime you're in a tough moment, and this is military, sports, business, in the moment it might suck, but then like you talk about it the rest of your career.
Absolutely.
So it's like I look for those moments.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I try to like pull myself out of body and like say like, hey, do we actually all need to pull an all-nighter tonight?
Right.
Probably not. Like, will the business still be here tomorrow? Yes. Is this a moment though where you're gonna find out who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. You could see that. I think Austin's first day, he also was here until 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't do that. I don't do that on purpose. I swear to God, I don't.
It's a hazing ritual.
Yeah, yeah. But like, does it actually have to happen that night? Probably not. So, but you're gonna find out who's in the boat with you because, like, if someone is not on board, they're like, "I'm leaving at 4:30." Like,
Yeah.
good luck, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you find out real quick who's rowing with you. You're gonna like naturally in hardship, you become closer.
Mhm.
And if there's people that are gonna be working together in that hard moment, they will have a little bond like we do with DC or anybody else part of DC has like a little bond that
Yeah.
they'll be able to lean on and like that brings them closer. And then 3, you actually do get it done a lot faster and like whatever you're trying to do is now done. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I view it as there's only positive outcomes with that. But I will say and the last thing to wrap up your luck thing, I think it's more so if you do bold things, like everybody can work hard, but like sometimes people could be working hard on the wrong thing too. To where like if I still worked hard the same way today that I did 6 years ago, none of us would be here because like me working hard 6 years ago was I was meeting with 10 client households a day and was probably driving for 5 hours and then was getting home at 11 o'clock and I was just meeting with clients all day. If I was still meeting with clients all day, none of us would even be here.
Yeah.
Because like that's what me stopping meeting with clients all day is what enabled us to continue to grow and scale. So your hard work has got to change and morph. Like now what I view my hard work at is like what bold massive action can I take that is going to unlock the next level of business for us. And sometimes that's I just got to get on a flight to go do this 1 hour meeting, but I'm going to be traveling for like 14 hours to make that happen. But like in my view, that's the most important, one thing that's going to help our business. So, and like that's where it's now. I love that we have all the people in the org that have like been in the I've been in the trenches with for those moments where they can at least share that because a lot of the time now people probably see me a lot less to where they might just like they have no idea, especially if someone's new. They're probably like, well, like Nick's probably like on the golf
Right.
course, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, but now it's like, no, like Nick flew to San Diego to like have a 15-minute happy hour that got us $6 million in funding,
Right.
or it's like that's what it looks like now. So that's where it's really important to build trust in your team. You know, hopefully you've worked with them a lot, one on one before, so like they know that you will do that when you're needed to. But the hard work changes,
Yeah.
and everyone's here. Hard work will change as they evolve in the company, and it has to, or else you don't evolve and you just do the same thing. So, but yeah, like making sure that your output doesn't stop, but that you're doing it on different things is important. Because if I've worked the same now that I did, like let's take for example when I did plans, if I did plans all day, like we're not, growing. That's what like hard work used to look like before. Actually, I pretty much only did planning like in the wee hours of the night
Yeah.
because that's when I had time. And but like again, lesson learned there. I realized the clients weren't getting what they deserved because it wasn't prioritized. That
Mhm.
led to, hey, we need to offer this solution. That led to, Steph coming in and building out this solution for us. So that's the things you need to look for, when you're an entrepreneur is like, what am I doing now that I'm probably not doing a good job of anymore because I'm not being able to give attention to it. Like I probably need to bring in someone that's A, better than me at it, and B, can, build out efforts to make that as the best solution possible.
Yeah, that's fantastic. This has all been so fantastic, Nick. Thank you so much for joining me. Just one last question for
Yeah.
you. So, if you could give one piece of advice to an aspiring entrepreneur, what would it be?
Start today. Like
Love
that
that.
easy. Like no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Like now this is obviously a super simple example, but you could literally, if you're 12, go to Costco and buy packs of gum that you can get at wholesale prices of $1 a pack, and then go to school tomorrow. I'm still young enough to remember that gum was currency in high school.
Yeah.
And like that pack of gum with 20 pieces of gum in it, you could sell for probably $1 a piece to your friends and make $20 off that pack of gum. And then you could start your whole distribution system within like, that's just uber simplified example, but like start right now. Like find something that somebody needs, either get it to them faster, get something better to them, solve something for them, take something off their hands, save them time, like find a solution and then just literally start like right now.
Yeah.
Just don't wait because everybody just waits. They're like, everyone will like, you'll run into a million people. It's like, man, I had this great idea and then I saw somebody did it. It's like, yeah, you didn't start. Like just start literally today at whatever it is. If you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you're good at something and you know it.
Yeah,
You
right.
know you're really great at something, or you can build something or offer something and you know it and it's valuable, but you don't know where to start. And nobody ever does. So that's why you just need to do something today and then pick something you're going to do tomorrow and then just compound those days into weeks, and then you're going to have a legitimate business.
Yeah.
So starting today, and this is for for all the entrepreneurs, which there's way more entrepreneurs, and I'd say start as an entrepreneur before you ever start as an entrepreneur. But start today at whatever you have in your mind that you think would be a great idea. Don't wait for permission. I hope this doesn't get anybody fired. But if you have a good boss, it won't. Don't wait for permission. Just do it and then take it to your boss like, hey, look what I fixed. I just saved us $12,000 a year.
Yeah.
So start today at whatever you want to do.
That's awesome. Well, again, Nick, thank you so much for joining me today. If you want to hear more from Nick, you can follow his podcast, Discipline to Win with Nick Frazetta, our COO. And you can follow us on social media at Watch Your Assets. And we will see you on the next one.